Good evening, Philippines. Good morning, good afternoon, world. Welcome to another interesting episode here at the English Blog. I'm Adrian from Makati City, Philippines.
I'm Christine from Daytona Beach, Florida, in the States.
And I'm Sarah, an American living in Italy.
We are the English Blog team. We're a blog of English teachers by English teachers and for English teachers.
You are watching Season 4, Episode 3 of the English Blog. If you are a teacher who wants to avoid making mistakes or even bounce back from making mistakes in the classroom, then we have some personal tips from our own experiences that we hope will be of help to you. Stay tuned, you guys.
At the English Blog, we provide customized lesson plans for schools and ESL organizations, curriculum mapping and unit planning services, life and career coaching sessions, weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education. And if you want to inquire of any of our services, message us at our website at www.theenglishblog.com or message us at any of our social media handles, which Sarah will explain.
That's right. We're all across social media. You might be watching this vlog on our Facebook page, which is English Blog for Teachers. Or if you're in Mindanao, you could be listening live on 90.5 Good Vibes FM. Either way, we're so happy to have you here. You can also find our regular website where we post our blog articles and, of course, links to our blogs, all on www.theenglishblog.com.
All right, let's get to our first question for the evening. Why do teachers make mistakes? The first reason why teachers make mistakes is because of lack of knowledge. And from a teacher standpoint, the lack of knowledge in a teacher could potentially be due to lack of training or intentional learning and preparation of the teacher, which also could be due to the lack of interest of the teacher on the topic, or sad to say, maybe because of procrastination or laziness, or also the lack of proper time management to organize a teacher's task at any given day. That's possibly why the nerves kick in, because the teacher knows that he or she is ill prepared for the topic at hand. Christine, what do you think?
I think it's interesting, Adrian, how you talk about lack of interest on part of the teacher, because oftentimes we talk about trying to gauge or spark the interest of the students. They need to be interested in the topics or in the content being covered. But I would say the same also has to apply to teachers. They need to be personally engaged with the material.
And the last aspect I want to talk about this is very near and dear to my heart. And it's because I think a lot of non-native teachers feel unnecessarily nervous or feel like they are not good enough or they will never be a perfect teacher because they're not a native speaker. And I want to tell all my non-native teachers out there that is 100% not true. Give yourself some more credit, please. I did a little research and got some statistics for you today. So in the world, there are approximately 380 million native English speakers. There are approximately 700 million non-native English speakers. So first thing, chances are, if you're learning English and speaking English, you're probably going to talk to a non-native speaker in your life and not a native speaker, because there's just more non-native English speakers out there. So first off, you being a non-native teacher, you add real value. I can't tell you how many students I've met, and not just in English, but also when I was learning other languages, that the people that have been taught by a combination of native and non-native teachers are better English speakers. They're able to communicate with a wider variety of people. It's no good if you learn English, but you can only talk to people from Boston. It's, you need to be able to talk to all kinds of people that speak all kinds of English with all kinds of accents. So first of all, your accent is not a mistake. And it's actually a great advantage that you should really be proud of. and your students should appreciate. I think there's some work that needs to be done in appreciating that. The second thing that we'll talk more about as we talk about the specific types of errors that occur in the classroom with teachers is I think a lot of non-native teachers don't give themselves enough credit because they may not have intuitive or inherent knowledge of English. They have learned it. But that also can be a huge help because if you compare trained teachers, trained English teachers, and you've got a native speaker and a non-native speaker, the non-native speaker is actually going to make fewer grammatical mistakes because they actually know what they're doing. They actually had to learn it and memorize it and know it. Whereas the native teacher is going to use what they're most familiar with, which may or may not be grammatically correct. Of course, if you have a choice between a completely untrained native speaker or a completely untrained non-native speaker, the native speaker is more likely to be right. But I can't think of really any universe where those two teachers would actually be like comparable. If you're a non-native teacher and you can't speak English, you're not going to be an English teacher. But if you're a native speaker and you never were trained, but you speak English, you might be a teacher, but you might not be a good one because you don't actually know how the language works, what you're doing. So non-native teachers, you've already done the work. You know what you're talking about. I'll try to change the world so the world appreciates you, and you just need to appreciate yourself a little more.
That is very encouraging, Sarah. And all the non-native English teachers in the world will say, "Thank you, Sarah."
I can personally attest to that because in the Philippines, I do know quite a lot of non-native English speakers who were trained formally in the English language, and they tend to be a little bit. I don't know how it works, but they are aware of certain nuances of English that native speakers easily overlook. And
Exactly.
my mother here in the States, she is not an English teacher, but she at work is often tapped for grammar checking or writing out emails because
Wow.
she's more aware of these rules or lots of rules that native speakers are just not aware of because for them it's
Awesome.
just intuitive. It's native to them.
Okay, so for those of you guys out there, non-native English teachers watching this video, please type a comment at the bottom of our video if you are a non-native English teacher and where you're teaching, which school, which country. We want to know. We want to hear from you. How can you bounce back from making mistakes? Here are my 3 tips to bounce back from any mistakes. And this doesn't apply only to teaching, but also in your other personal or professional mishaps. 3 points. 1, vulnerability. Number 2, responsibility. And number 3, courage. First, being vulnerable means owning up to your mistakes. That means you did it, even though unintentionally, and not blaming anyone for it, including yourself. That also means being gentle with yourself and becoming your own best friend in times of failure. Having a sense of responsibility means, yes, you've admitted you made a mistake, and you reflect and ask yourself these questions. What should I do next to rectify this? And how do I make sure this doesn't happen often? I said this doesn't happen often because there may be a time when you will repeat it again, but hopefully not as consistent. And third, being courageous enough to face your fears and rumble with shame, if any, but still being brave enough to do your best in making something better out of something that's gone bad, even if sometimes you're not 100% sure that it will work. And then you go back again to being vulnerable and being open. And then the cycle continues. That's my tip. What do you think about this, Sarah?
I think that is great advice, not just for English, but for life. And specifically, when you're in the English classroom and you make a mistake, and we're talking about mistakes this episode that are that are more about the language itself. We're not talking about social mistakes or faux pas or something like that, but actual you've messed up. You said something that was incorrect about English. In that case, I think it's very important to keep your cool, because most students don't expect you to be perfect, but they do expect you to be aware and honest. And so, as Adrian said, you 100% need to be vulnerable and honest. You need to admit you made the mistake. If a student catches your mistake and challenges you, you need to be gracious. You need to thank that student. And it's a good teacher can turn that into a learning opportunity. You're 100% right, student. Can you please tell us why? And it can also be a good way to model just the general learning process. So you can make a mistake and then you can say, oh, I made a mistake. Let's think about why I made that mistake. Let's talk about it, because this is a mistake that you might make. I often have some spelling mistakes actually in my English teaching, because usually I teach conversational English, especially as a language assistant. They want me there for pronunciation. And I have a lot of problems sometimes because I teach in Europe and the spelling can be different between American English and British English. And my students and my colleagues kind of expect me to be this compendium of all English. And sometimes I think a spelling is incorrect when really it's just a different type of spelling. Or sometimes I spend too much time working in British English that I start mixing the spellings. And then they're like, why did you spell color one way in this line and with a U in the next line? And I have to say, because I totally got confused. And it's an error that you need to choose one. So that is an excellent catch. And when you read your own writing, you should actually make that you're spelling the same words consistently throughout. So yeah, it's a great way to turn it into modeling their process and showing them that it's okay to make a mistake, that you can keep going, you can correct your mistake, sky's not going to fall, everything's okay, and good on you for actually having the awareness to notice the mistake, your mistake or my mistake.
What are some of the most common mistakes that teachers make? So let me start with the 3 grammar mistakes influenced by Tagalog sentence construction. First is the he or she, because in the Philippines we use non-gendered pronouns, and that is rooted in us non-native English teachers translating in our head. The next one is prepositions. We only have, I think, one preposition in the Philippines, and that is sa. And in English, you have in, on, at, and other preposition types. That is why many of us non-native English teachers from the Philippines commit that mistake. And then this one specific example, which is we tend to say discuss about something when it's supposed to be discuss math, discuss the bad news, discuss what happened. Maybe because in the Tagalog, the translation is tungkol sa. And that is why I often catch other people, and even sometimes myself, saying discuss about, and then I would correct that. I would either say discuss something or talk about, because that's where that preposition comes to play with the word discuss. What do you guys think?
I kind of want to combine what Sarah said in the last question and what Adrian just said for this question, like how British and American English differ in many regards, including spelling. But I think there's also a difference in the use of prepositions. That's something that I've noticed watching British programs. I think that, yeah, there's no one correct way to use them, whether it's British or English. I would say the important thing is being consistent. So if you're using British spelling for one word, then use British spelling all throughout. Because I have seen teachers using different spellings like American and English American and British in the same paragraph or in the same essay, even the same sentence. And I think the importance here is consistency. For me, I think a common grammatical mistake, and this not only applies to American teachers because I'm American, I think this applies to English teachers at large, is the proper use of tenses, specifically past perfect versus present perfect and past perfect progressive versus present perfect progressive. So I actually teach these in my Lang 115 and Lang 120 classes. So I guess it's something that I would consider a pet peeve of mine. Before it was not so much, but now that I teach it, it's something that I do look after when observing classes. There are 12 tenses in the English language, and I would say these tenses that I just mentioned, they're probably introduced at the lower intermediate, maybe at the soonest, and maybe there's a lot more focus on it in the upper intermediate and advanced levels. But with past perfect, that focuses on the occurrence of a past action before another one happened. So I like to describe it to my students as the past before the past, and they seem to understand it. And I give them an example sentence like, I declined the lunch invitation because I had already eaten. And from that explanation, they seem to get it, but it's something that a lot of teachers overlook and they get wrong. And it's quite important to me. And then the present perfect, that focuses on the recency of a past action. There are other uses of the present perfect, but that's one of the most common. And then example, want to get lunch? No thanks, I've already eaten. So yeah, those are some things to note. And then similar to that, but the progressive forms are the past perfect progressive and then the present perfect progressive. So the first one focuses on the duration of a past action before another one happened. And my example sentence is, I had been doing my homework before my dog ate it. And then the latter shows that something happened in the past and is continuing at the present time. So there's quite a difference there in their uses. So example, my dog has been eating my homework. So maybe he started eating my homework last month when I was taking classes, and to this day he eats my homework. I do notice when teachers make those mistakes, and maybe that's something that we can watch out for, especially at the higher levels. Last thing you want is an advanced aggressively inquisitive student noting that you made an error, because that would be very embarrassing. And as a teacher, you are supposed to be an expert in this field. So, yeah, those are some things to note.
And yeah, like Christine's past tense pet peeves, I have a big pet peeve too. And I'm going to talk about some errors that our native teacher and native speaker friends make. And if you're a non-native teacher, you're actually much less likely to make these mistakes. So if you are realizing that people make this mistake for the first time, and congratulations, you speak better English. And the thing that drives me crazy is would've, could've, should've. A lot. The pronunciation, yes, fine, I'll give it to you. It's fine, normal pronunciation to pronounce the have in a contraction with an F sound at the end. He could have done that. We should have gone there. That is fine. Pronunciation, I don't have an issue with you. I have a problem when you don't write have and instead you write of. It's incorrect, and it's really incorrect. It's not even close to correct. And it drives me absolutely batty. And this is a thing that I see a lot with new or untrained English teachers. As a language assistant, I've met a lot of people who are just coming out of college and they aren't trained as teachers, and they may not actually become teachers. They're just abroad and they're there to be conversational assistants, which is fine until you actually don't know the construction of English. The other error I see with a lot of native speakers is like, besides that one, I really hate the incorrect subjunctive. It should be if I were you, but a lot of people just say if I was you, especially if you're American, because that's how people just talk. But it's incorrect. It drives me crazy wherever I hear it, whether it's in a classroom or not. And it's it's an issue that you get because you haven't actually formally studied English grammar. and the tense sequence. And the other issue that a lot of native teachers who've just never thought about it, or new teachers who just haven't spent so many years thinking about it, you can misidentify parts of speech. And that can be a problem when the teacher doesn't really know, is it a gerund or is it just a past continuous? So yeah, you need to be able to identify what the things are correctly, which can be difficult if you've never actually been trained in grammar, which oftentimes native speakers have not. I had the only grammar training I had, and I had more than most people, was in grammar school, in elementary school. So I haven't learned English grammar since I was like 10. So yeah, there's going to be some gaps there unless you actually keep it up. And then the other thing that some native teachers do, and probably some non-native teachers do as well, is not realizing that things that you think are incorrect are really just world English. Like I've had people tell me, so in American English, you usually say, do you have a dog? Do you have kids? That's perfectly acceptable. That is fine. But in British English, they love, have you got kids? Have you got a dog? And they're both correct. They're both grammatically correct. And honestly, no matter where you say each one in the world, somebody's going to understand you. But yeah, I have been challenged for my pronunciation. And there have been times that I've been like, is that really what people say? And I've looked it up on the internet and it's actually correct. It's just a different type of English. So yeah, you need to be aware that some things you think are errors may not be errors. And some things that you're saying that other people think are errors are actually just a different type of English.
Wow, those are really insightful answers. And if you guys, for those of you who are watching this and you got those from our discussion before we get to the next question, please type in the comment section if you have already committed that mistake in the past. We really want to know and we want to hear from you. And let's go to the next and last question. How can you avoid making mistakes? All right, let me first break the bad news. The bad news is you cannot ever avoid making mistakes because that's part of human nature. And that is also because we're supposed to learn interdependence. That is the power of knowing that we need other people to help us achieve something because we do not have all the skills in the world. That is why we have a team of co-teachers, our supervisor, to help us fill in the gaps in our competencies. But the good news is, John Maxwell, a leadership guru in the US, says failure is a situation, not a person, meaning we can always strive to make something better. And part of the irony and beauty of learning in all of life is that we can never be perfect, but at the same time, we can be the best at what we do if we will commit to succeeding in our chosen profession. And what a dear, noble profession it is to be a teacher, and what a privilege to be working with you all in this big world of teaching and education.
I agree. What a huge privilege it is to be a teacher and to be in this wonderful profession. I wouldn't change it for the world. As Adrian said, mistakes are inevitable. It's part of being human, and you can use mistakes. I feel like I've said this a lot in past vlogs. You can use them to your advantage and use them to make you a better person. You can use mistakes to your advantage and use them as lessons to be a stronger person overall. But if you feel that your mistakes are having a detrimental effect on you personally or on your career, or you keep on committing the same mistakes over and over again, you should maybe check and see what are the underlying reasons of you making the mistakes. So maybe it's nervousness. And one way that I personally like to deal with nervousness, maybe it will work for you as well, is meditation. I have been doing it on and off for the past maybe 5 or 6 years, and it's helped me a great deal. I like to do a lot of positive self-talk because sometimes, well, people they have their own lives and they can't always lift you up right at the moment when you want them to lift you up. So Sometimes you have yourself and you need to be the one to uplift yourself. And positive self-talk is a really powerful thing. Practice executing your lessons at home. Whether you live alone or you live with other people, don't mind if other people live in your house. It might help you a lot to practice executing even just a few minutes of your lesson at home, just so you can get the feel of the lesson and gauge how you might approach a certain part of the lesson.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Adrian and Christine. I think they have given some great advice about mistakes in general and mistakes in the classroom in particular. And it's true, you can never eliminate every single mistake. You will make mistakes. But I will say that if you're making mistakes about English grammar, the good news is there is a right answer, and all you have to do is find it. So if you find that there are actual knowledge gaps and that's what's causing your mistake, please crack open a book, go look it up on the internet, go do that grammar course that you never had, and actually learn that stuff. And as Christine said, knowing your material makes you are more prepared, you feel more prepared, and you are less likely to make mistakes. And you also have a whole world of a whole arsenal of knowledge to help you deal with a mistake that you make. So yeah, don't be afraid to learn new things.
Once again, here at the English blog, we provide customized lesson plans, curriculum mapping and unit planning services, life and career coaching sessions, weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education. If you have any questions about our services, message us anytime at our website, www.theenglishblog.com, or any of the following social media handles.
Yep, you can find us all on Facebook, English Blog for Teachers. We're also on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can find all our handles on our website, www.theenglishblog.com. And of course, please like, follow, share, subscribe, send us a message. We want to hear about mistakes you've made, mistakes you've heard. If you've got any pet peeve mistakes that just drive you crazy like me, please talk to us. Let us know all about making mistakes and all about the kind of content that you want to see from us in the future. We are here for you, and we're all in this big world of education trying to get better together. So please let us know, reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And thank you all for listening. If you are listening to us here on 90.5 Good Vibes Radio in Mindanao, we love knowing that we have real life people, especially me. I feel a little bit famous knowing that my voice is being heard by people in the Philippines. So please reach out to us on either our page or their page. They are at Good Vibes Online. And please check us out, check out their social media, check out our social media. And again, you can find any information about the radio station on our website, www.theenglishblog.com.
And once again, my name is Adrian from Makati City, Philippines.
I am Christine from Daytona Beach, Florida in the States.
And I'm Sarah from the bustling metropolis of Bibbiano, rural Italy.
And we are the English blog team saying, keep learning, stay healthy and happy, everyone. Bye for now. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.